All right, let's go to the other game Friday night. And yes, this one might get lost in the shuffle, considering it's up against Oregon, Washington, the game everyone's going to be watching. But don't sleep on this game. Conference USA Championship game. New Mexico State and Liberty. Liberty 10.5-point home favorites, 54.5 the total. And I can say home favorites in this game because this is a true home game for Liberty. This is on their home field, Williams Stadium in Lynchburg, Virginia. That's the way it is every year in the Conference USA Championship game. The team with the better record hosts the conference championship game every year. And of course, that is Liberty. What a year one for Jamie Chadwell. And all you have to do is watch that debacle, that disgrace that Tim Beck has turned Coastal Carolina into this season. I couldn't believe how pathetic they were on Saturday against a James Madison team that was supposed to have a bubble burst factor.
Yeah.
Their undefeated season snapped. Coastal waiting there, looking to get into they could have won. They're in this game instead of, or they're in the Coastal Carolina's in the Sun Belt Championship game instead of App State. If they beat James Madison, they had all the incentive. Final home game, all the incentive to show up against James Madison. And their offense was inept, totally and utterly inept in that game. And Tim Beck has destroyed that offense, an offense that Jamie Chadwell, every year he was at Coastal Carolina, he had it humming. And now he's taken that offense that was humming there and he's brought it to Liberty, where Jamie Chadwell's just done an outstanding coach. Clearly, there's no question about that. He's done an outstanding job with this team. It's just a fun team to watch. And they are an offense that can score any which way whatsoever, whether it's Caden Salter throwing it, Caden Salter running it because he's got great wheels, dual threat quarterback, Quentin Cooley in the backfield. They've got good receivers too, as led by CJ Daniels. It's a very, very good, potent team offensively, and they have done significant damage all season long. They have gone now in 6 straight games, 38 plus or more points scored for this Liberty team. They've just been absolute machines right now, the Liberty Flames. Just an incredibly well-coordinated team, no doubt. Like I said, Salter's been excellent. Cooley's been running it well. Daniels, especially leading them at receiver. It's just a great offensive line because they're just plowing open holes, every single week. So it's an offense that is definitely dangerous. And it's a defense that, you look at what they've done this year, pretty solid. And it's why they've gotten here in a conference where there's some issues with a lot of teams defensively. Liberty's done a nice job in that regard. So we'll see how they fare here in this one against New Mexico State. But I'll tell you what, for as incredible as Liberty is, undefeated, 12-0, what a job this season by Jerry Kill at New Mexico State. Absolutely terrific turnaround. I never thought in a million years New Mexico State would be Conference USA Championship level good this year. I had them over their win total. I said, I think they could win 6, 7, maybe even 8 games. I didn't think a 10-win football team this year. Absolutely terrific. You talk about another team where their defense has just absolutely gotten better as well. New Mexico State. They have played extremely well on the defensive side of the football. They've gotten pressure on opposing quarterbacks. They've been pretty stout against the run as well. They're only giving up 3.9 yards per carry and 126 rushing yards per game. When you look at the Liberty offense, going into this game, they are not that they can't throw it, they can, but it is it was like this with Chadwell's offenses at Coastal, all those years. They're really run heavy. They're run first, and it's really not close. They certainly rely heavily on the ground attack working. When you look at how New Mexico State's defensive line, especially in the interior, has matched up with their run defense this year against opposing teams, it's not going to be easy for Liberty to do what they want offensively in this game. New Mexico State has done a great job, like I said, against the run. All you have to do is look at that upset, one of the biggest upsets of the season, 25-point dog at Auburn a couple of weeks ago, beating Auburn 31-10. Now, you could argue Auburn was looking ahead to the Iron Bowl. They didn't focus too much on New Mexico State. Yeah, you could make that argument to a certain extent. But at some point, you also have to give credit to New Mexico State, going into Auburn and just shutting that offense down and holding Auburn to what? Peyton Thorne was their leading rusher in that game, 38 yards rushing. They couldn't get anything going on the ground. Auburn had 65 rushing yards on 26 carries against that New Mexico State defense in that game. So I think when you look at this matchup, and as explosive as Liberty has been on offense this year and all the points they rack up, they move the football primarily on the ground. It's not a phenomenal passing attack. It's a good, decent passing attack, but they need to run the football to be effective. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it against New Mexico State as well as they want to do it, because the Aggies have just been absolutely exceptional on defense against the run. And then on the flip side, their own offense, I love Diego Pavia's game. He's had a terrific season, dual threat quarterback. Like I said, I think one of the best quarterbacks that New Mexico State's had in years. They are an offense that when you look at the numbers, they obviously want to run the football quite a bit too, and their numbers are skewed to the run, heavily to the run, just like Liberty's offense. But the difference is when you look at the defensive numbers here for Liberty against the run, they're solid. They're really, really good as well. But I think there's a little bit more of a passing element to New Mexico State, and I think that's the key to this game. Caden Salter, hit or miss in the passing game. I think with Diego Pavia, he's shown he can make plays. He's shown he can get outside the pocket. And to me, if the run games are shut down, it's going to be who can make the best plays with their feet. Pavia can do it. Caden Salter can do it. And who's going to be able to throw the football more accurately and create more explosive big plays in the passing game? Because I think it's going to be tough sledding for both teams to do what they want to do best, and that's run the football in this game against these two teams. So I like the points here with New Mexico State. I've cashed so many tickets with them this year. The eye test tells me that while Liberty's been absolutely phenomenal, let's also keep in mind when you look at this Liberty schedule, let's get serious here. Sam Houston State, Jacksonville State, that was a pretty good win. I'll give them that. But since that Jacksonville State win, Middle Tennessee, who just fired their coach, by the way, Rick Stockstill, after almost 20 years today. Western Kentucky, who's not the same team as they've been. Louisiana Tech, a dreadful, disastrous, disappointing year. Old Dominion, 38-10, up and down team, barely made bowl eligibility. And then the last two games were UMass and UTEP, two horrible football teams. So I don't want to get too wrapped up in all these gaudy numbers and scoreboard final results for Liberty, because they've really feasted on the week. Whereas New Mexico State, their schedule's been a cupcake for much of the season too. I don't argue that whatsoever. But they have the win against Auburn. They showed their mettle against an SEC squad on the road earlier this season. That's significant to me. It showed me that.
And then last week, everyone said that the flat spot that they would lose, and the money went to Jacksonville. Baveno. The line went to what, 3 by kickoff?
Exactly. And they lost. This is a rematch because they played Liberty September the 9th. They lost 33-17. I think they've gotten better since then, New Mexico State. I really do. And I like that little intangible. We lost 33-17 to Liberty earlier this year. Not that Liberty's not going to just rest on their laurels. We beat this team already, but I think there's a little intangible edge that you go at the extra mile for Jerry Kill. You go the extra mile, you see what the fuck didn't work in the first meeting against Liberty, and you really try to correct it, and you adjust even more. When you beat the team already like Liberty did, you don't do that as much. So I trust the coaching staff with what they've been able to do this year to be able to make some adjustments and make this a competitive football game. That's all we need. If Liberty's laying a field goal or even a touchdown here, maybe I'm not on it. But we're getting 10.5 with a team that has been stout in the trenches, can, I think, neutralize what Liberty does best on offense, and that's run it, and a team that's shown that they can go to Auburn against a team like that. Now, not the vintage Auburn team, but still, we almost saw Auburn beat Alabama last week in the Iron Bowl. So for New Mexico State to go in there and beat them, that's a significant feather in their cap, and it shows me that based on the matchup, based on where this number is, I think New Mexico State a little undervalued here. I'm taking the Aggies here, plus 10.5. What do you think here, Conor Mack, Conference USA Championship?
Yeah, I think this line was just about right. I think Liberty might win this football game. You hit what I was going to go through. Their schedule, they really didn't play anybody. And I went back to the game September 9th, where I think New Mexico State's gotten better. And that game was 23-17 at half, Babano. And the first three possessions for New Mexico State coming out of that third was a fumble, a 3-and-out, and a pick. And they got done. They scored 10, and the game was just over.
Yep.
Both teams didn't score in the fourth. They kind of went on cruise control. So those three possessions just they kind of shot themselves in the foot, New Mexico State. I think their defense is a little bit better. What Liberty still should be able to run it. Well, they had 250 in that first game. I don't know if they get that again, but I think I think they got to take the over 10 here with New Mexico State. And I love Liberty. Liberty's kicked a lot of teams' asses, a lot of bad teams, and they're very good and might win this game. But I got to be with the points here. I got to take the 10.5 with New Mexico State as well.
So I
don't know about the total real quick here. Liberty's so good. It's usually they've gotten over the number. I don't know. I'm going to stay off the total because this could just stay under, or we could just get maybe a few too many points and get over. The Liberty defense too, Babano, real quick. There's been so good. Like last week, it's kind of their scores. They beat up on teams and then let teams score like in the fourth. Like UTEP didn't do anything until the fourth quarter where they were blown out by 40 and they scored 2 or 3 touchdowns last week. So yeah, nothing on the total right now.
Now it's going to be interesting. It's a you know what? I know Oregon, Washington. We're all excited to watch that game. Obviously, it goes without saying. But don't sleep on this. This is a really good football game here with New Mexico State. And I'm excited to watch this one because it's two excellent teams. It's by far the two best teams in Conference USA this year. This total's just you're right. It's a conundrum for me. This total because you look at these two teams. Neither team's going to play fast. You know, you look at it, Liberty is a methodical, ball control type of offense for the most part this season. And certainly that's going to be the case with New Mexico State. There's no question about that. New Mexico State's 129 out of 133 teams in FBS football.
They've been a great under for me. I've been on about 4 or 5 of them. Yeah, they are slow.
So they're going to really slow it down. And Liberty's not that much faster. Liberty's 108 in the country in seconds per play. But they're betting it over. The total's actually gone up. Efficient.
That's why efficient offense. Yeah, slow but efficient. Yeah,
very efficient. And when they get in the red zone, both of them, they've been really good at scoring touchdowns lately. So I think they see that efficiency. That efficiency could get there as far as the over is concerned. But if you're betting pace and pace only, you're not betting this thing over at 54.5, 55 based on pace, because both of these teams are methodical. And like I said, both of them in the bottom. I would say 25 to 30 teams in college football for seconds per play as far as pace goes. So it's a great matchup, though. Looking forward to it on Friday night with New Mexico State and Liberty. And you know what about New Mexico State? Everybody's impressed, obviously. You beat Auburn as almost 4-touchdown underdog on the road. That's impressive. I think I was just as impressed with last week, though. You mentioned it, Connor. Yeah, beating Jacksonville State. You're coming off that game. And you've got this game, a revenge game, and the conference title game on deck. You had every excuse in the world to just fuck off against Jacksonville State last week and just roll over and dead as a doornail and hungover and flat as a pancake in a meaningless game in between the Auburn win and this big game. And they didn't do it. They didn't roll over. They played a really good game. They gutted it out. Was it pretty? No. But and Jacksonville State's no slouch. Jacksonville State's a pretty good team in this conference and had a pretty good season for Rich Rod. So that was just as impressive seeing them win that game, because all I heard everybody say all week was let down city. You got to take Jacksonville State in this spot. And New Mexico State was still able to beat them. Just an outstanding job there's so many guys that have done great jobs in the group of 5 this year. We'll talk about another in Barry Odom for UNLV later, but certainly Jerry Kill right up there with some of the great coaching jobs in the group of 5 this year in college football.